We're learning more about a spy case that's shaken Arcadia City Hall, and the mayor still refuses to comment. Mayor Eileen Wang's former fiance and campaign manager has been sentenced to prison. Yao Ning's son, aka Mike's son, was caught spying for China. Wang is distancing herself from the case, but now we're hearing from a woman who says she was approached by the spy. Arcadia resident and citizen journalist Sonia Martin told our Tom Waite she met Son at a luncheon before it was known that he was an agent.
I thought it was a ladies' lunch, and I showed up, and this, guy was there. He would get up and serve, and make sure you eat this.
You know why he was there?
No, I didn't. And she did introduce me to him at the beginning as her fiance. I'm just sick of it. I'm so just fed up.
Martin took this photo of Son in shackles. Mayor Wang is not accused of any wrongdoing. Again, no comment from the mayor or from the Arcadia City Council.
An elected mayor of an American city just walked into federal court and admitted she was secretly working for the Chinese Communist Party. This isn't a case of being accused or alleged of a crime because she stood up in front of a judge and said it herself. Eileen Wang, the sitting mayor of Arcadia, California, pleaded guilty to a federal charge of acting as an unregistered foreign agent. And the very same day that plea went public, she resigned from the Arcadia City Council. The entire career she built collapsed in less than 24 hours. Arcadia is a city of about 60,000 people in Los Angeles County, sitting right in the San Gabriel Valley. It isn't a military base or some high-level foreign policy hub, but rather a regular American suburb, where people voted for someone they trusted to handle their local business. That broken trust is exactly why this story matters to every American watching, no matter where you live, because the real question isn't whether this happened, since she already confirmed it in court. We need to look at how it happened, what the law actually says about it, and what it means for regular people when the person they voted for is taking direction from a foreign government. Before Wang ever became mayor, she served on the Arcadia City Council while she was in a relationship with a man named KeyAlmightyy Son. While Son acted as her campaign manager during her rise in local politics, his actual role went much deeper than just winning elections. He was eventually convicted and sentenced to 2 years in federal prison for acting as a foreign agent for the Chinese government. And while his conviction came first, Wang's guilty plea followed soon after. According to federal court documents, Son's mission was very specific. He was directed to find a politician in Southern California, help that person climb through the ranks of local government, and then use that position to push interests favorable to the Chinese Communist Party inside the United States. This isn't a theory or some wild speculation, but a fact that is now part of the permanent federal record. And Wang's role in the operation centered on a website called U.S. News Center. On the surface, it looked like a perfectly normal local news site, the kind of community outlet most people scroll through without thinking twice. You would see regular neighborhood updates and local stories that wouldn't raise a red flag for most readers. But mixed into that content were articles and posts directly controlled by officials from the People's Republic of China. Court documents state that Wang received specific instructions from PRC government officials telling her what to post, and she regularly sought their approval before allowing other content to go out. This was a consistent pattern over time, which means it wasn't just a single mistake or a lapse in judgment. The charge she pleaded guilty to carries a maximum sentence of 10 years in federal prison, and that explains why she stepped down from her city council seat the moment the plea was entered. She went from being the sitting mayor to a resigned official in a single day. Now, here's the detail that makes this feel real rather than just any political headline. A local resident and citizen journalist named Sonia Martin told reporters she attended a community lunch, as you guys heard in this first clip, that Wang hosted well before any of this became public. She described it as what seemed like a casual neighborhood gathering where Son was quietly moving around the room and making sure guests were served. Wang introduced him to the crowd as her fiance, and nobody in that room had any idea he was already operating as a foreign agent. Nobody suspected the woman hosting the lunch was involved in anything like this because it looked exactly like it was supposed to look like, which was a local politician and her partner hosting their neighbors. That detail matters because it shows how completely normal this operation appeared to the people living inside it every day. Martin started tracking Sun's case closely after his arrest and even attended his federal sentencing after local media coverage dried up. She took a photo of Sun in shackles as he was led out of the courtroom, as you guys seen in this clip. And when a reporter asked what Sun said to the judge, Martin recalled he simply told the court he had a written letter. Sun went to the prison while Wang stayed in office, and the federal investigation kept moving until it finally caught up with her. When you strip away the headlines and the political noise, the core of this story is actually very simple. A foreign government targeted a local American politician, built access through her romantic partner, and used that access to run a propaganda operation through a fake community news site. The person at the center of it admitted everything in federal court, and the documents prove it. Don't take my word for it, family. I want you guys to check this out.
We begin with breaking news. The mayor of Arcadia has agreed to plead guilty to being a foreign agent spreading Chinese propaganda.
And for more on the charge against Eileen Wang, we're joined now by Kevin Ozebek.
Well, David and Giovanna, federal investigators say instead of acting in the best interest of the people who elected her, Arcadia Mayor Eileen Wang acted in the interest of the Chinese Communist Party. Mayor Wang, seen here in campaign videos she posted online, has accepted a plea deal that could see her spend up to 10 years behind bars. Federal prosecutors say the mayor and a then fiancé were posting Chinese Communist Party propaganda on a website called U.S. News Center. According to court documents unsealed today, Mayor Wang received and executed directives from PRC government officials to post pro-PRC content on this website, and sometimes sought approval from PRC government officials to circulate other pro-PRC content.
The website that we're talking about looked like a standard news website that got a lot of traffic in the community. If you signed on, it looked kind of like the CNN website, does, with lots of different just regular news updates. And then, peppered in with the regular news were these items of propaganda.
And we just checked, Arcadia City website has now been updated, and it says Wang has resigned from Arcadia City Council effective today. A new mayor will be selected at the next regular council meeting. Now, you may remember earlier this year, Mayor Wang's former fiance and campaign manager was sentenced to 2 years in federal prison. Yaoning Mike's son pled guilty to one count of acting as a foreign agent to a foreign government. Live.
A developing story now. We are learning more about a spy case that's shaken Arcadia City Hall. Mayor Eileen Wang's former fiance and campaign manager was just sentenced to prison after he was caught spying for China.
Tonight, new information on this story. We're hearing from a woman who says the spy tried to recruit her. And
CBS LA political reporter Tom Wade is live in Arcadia now with that woman's revelations. Tom?
Yeah, once again, very intriguing, Rudabe and Pat. And this case in many ways feels like it should be closed, right? The spy was sentenced last week, but one citizen journalist here in Arcadia says that is not the case. She says there are still many open questions.
We have a car.
Arcadia Mayor Eileen Wang on Tuesday night refusing to answer our questions about a now convicted Chinese government spy, Yaoning's son, also known as Mike's son, who Mayor Wang once referred to as her fiance, boyfriend, and campaign manager.
I just think it's important for people to understand just your reaction to this sentence.
I don't have the comments right now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Son was sentenced last week to 4 years in prison for his work as a spy. According to court documents, his mission was to groom a Southern California politician, help them rise in the ranks, and then promote pro-Chinese Communist Party interests in the U.S. Longtime Arcadia resident and citizen journalist Sonia Martin met Son at a luncheon before it was known he was a spy for the Chinese government. Martin says Wang asked her to help her make good on some campaign promises. Martin declined.
I thought it was a ladies' lunch, and I showed up, and this, guy was there, and I was like, who's this? I thought this was going to be a ladies' lunch.
Martin says Son was quietly observing the lunch.
Just quietly kind of serving. He would get up and serve, and make sure you eat this.
You know why he was there?
No. I didn't. And she did introduce me to him at the beginning as her fiance.
After news broke that Sun was charged with being a Chinese government spy, Martin tracked the case closely, even going to Sun's sentencing last week. She took this photo of Sun in shackles as he was led out of the courtroom.
The only thing he said to the judge was, "I wrote you a letter."
Mayor Wang is not accused of any wrongdoing. As is standard, the U.S. Attorney's Office would not confirm or deny whether she is under investigation.
Next item, number 6.
For now, it appears it's business as usual in Arcadia. No mention Tuesday night of Sun or his sentence. Martin says she doesn't think residents are getting the full story.
I'm just sick of it. I'm so just fed up.
We reached out to every member of the city council in Arcadia, including the mayor. None of them responded to us. Reporting live in Arcadia, I'm Tom Waite, CBS LA.
Most people have never heard of the Foreign Agents Registration Act. And that's not an accident. It's one of those laws that does serious work in the background while almost everyone outside of legal and national security circles stays completely unaware it even exists. So let's fix that right now. Congress passed FARA in 1938, and the context is everything here. Nazi Germany was actively running propaganda operations inside the United States, using American citizens' organizations to spread pro-German material right before World War II. Congress watched this happening in real time and decided the American public had a right to know when someone was spreading a foreign government's message on that government's behalf. The rule they came up with is actually straightforward. If you are working to influence American public opinion, media, or government policy for a foreign government or political party, you have to register with the Department of Justice and make that relationship public. You don't have to stop doing the work. You just have to be honest about who is giving you your instructions. And here's the part that catches people off guard. This law applies to everyone. It applies to everyone. It doesn't matter if you're a citizen, a lobbyist, a journalist, or an elected official sitting in a mayor's chair. Your title doesn't exempt you. Your citizenship doesn't exempt you. If a relationship exists where you're taking direction from a foreign government to shape how Americans think or what their government does, you register or you break the law. The whole point is transparency so that voters and neighbors can factor that information in to how they evaluate everything they're hearing. The real problem isn't that the law doesn't exist. The problem is that for most of its history, almost nobody enforced it. Between 1966 and 2015, nearly 50 years, the Department of Justice secured exactly 7 FARA-related convictions. 7. From 1966 to 2015, for a law designed to protect the integrity of American political life from foreign manipulation. That number tells you everything. A rule with no enforcement isn't protection. It's decoration on the wall. That changed after 2017 when the Department of Justice made FARA enforcement an actual priority instead of an afterthought. The Wang case is a direct result of that shift. So is the Linda Sun case in New York. Prosecutors are now looking at these violations at the local level rather than only chasing high-profile federal targets. And the guilty pleas are starting to reflect that. Think about any workplace with a policy handbook. The rules only mean something if people know they exist. And if there are real consequences when someone breaks them, then that's how you know the rule exists, right? Because if there's consequences and people know about it, then it's being enforced. A policy nobody enforces doesn't protect the company or their employees. It just takes up space in a binder, and FARA spent decades as that binder. Now that you understand the legal framework, the bigger question is how an operation like this gets built. Because this didn't just come out of anywhere or nowhere, and the people running it weren't improvising. Foreign governments have been trying to pull the strings of American politics since before the country was even fully formed. In the 1790s, a French diplomat named Edmond Charles Genet arrived in the United States and started organizing American citizens to support French revolutionary causes, completely bypassing the Washington administration to appeal directly to the public. Washington eventually had him recalled. That whole episode, known as the Citizen Genet Affair, was the first real test of what it means for a foreign power to operate inside American political life. The young republic had to figure out that problem from scratch. The tactics evolved dramatically over the next 2 centuries. During the Cold War, the Soviet Union ran what intelligence professionals called active measures, a structured program to shift Western public opinion without anyone realizing the influence was there. They placed operatives inside American labor unions, universities, and local newspapers. The goal wasn't to blow anything up or steal documents, it was patient, slow work. Shift the conversation, make certain ideas feel normal, build relationships that can be used for leverage years down the road. It looked like ordinary people participating in ordinary community life, right? Which is exactly why it worked as long as it did. Now, I want you guys to see this clip as I tie it all together so you guys get why I mention this right now.
You said something interesting because, you know, I was born in the Soviet Union, so we both have direct experience of socialism in various shapes and forms. You talked about, well, there's positives and there's negatives. So is there a country that's done socialism the way that you like?
I would say China is probably the closest. And there are still plenty of failures within the Chinese system as well, plenty of issues within the Chinese system as well. But that's probably the closest, I would say, to an example that we should follow and lessons that we should learn from. This is something that I talk about quite a bit. Ironically enough, we only utilize some of the most repressive elements of Chinese governance here in the United States of America, especially in the second Trump administration, and none of the good stuff.
Chat.
Oh, no way!
It's a small one.
And it's the first version.
It's the first. Wait.
Yeah. Really?
Is that a Bible?
No, that's a little red book.
It is basically.
The
little red book?
The little red book? It's the red Bible is what it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some may say more important than the Bible. Some may.
Especially over here.
Yep. Yeah, I know. That's crazy. I don't have any sort of patriotism in my heart for any, for America, but just in general. I'm not like a very, I care about people. My mind, in my conscience, I have already become Chinese. Okay? We were already white Chinese in this chat. I've already become full Chinese. Okay? Let me just start by saying that. It's fucking sick. Okay? Like, you have abundant style consumption paired up with a centrally controlled economy, an economic system that has yielded tremendous development. You have 1950s Soviet era building blocks next to the Gucci store. If there was ever a country that represented the synthesis, the things that I enjoy so much personally, if ever such a country existed, I do not know. You have to try the premium grilled chicken sandwich at McDonald's China, or I'm gonna report you to the CCP officials. You have met me at a very Chinese time in my life, chat.
Now, family, that is Hassan Piker, a popular online political commentary and live streamer who talks about politics, news, culture, and current events, mostly from a progressive left-wing perspective. He's a Democrat. He became well known through online streaming and YouTube by breaking down political topics in a casual, emotional, and internet-style way that connects with younger audiences. Supporters see him as someone who makes politics easier to understand, while critics believe some of his takes can be too one-sided or controversial. Regardless of opinion, he has become one of the biggest political creators on the internet for the Democrat Party. Now, with that being said, because I wanted you guys to know who exactly that was and why I played that clip, because that clip is a real-world example of what the active measures playbook looks like when it moves out of the shadows and into public conversation. When influential voices start making it sound normal, even appealing to admire a foreign government system, it creates cover for the quieter work happening underneath. Most people watching this clip won't connect it to a city council race in Arcadia, California, but that's exactly the point. Normalization works because nobody notices the water they're swimming in. The Arcadia case belongs to that same lineage. Sun's documented mission wasn't to recruit military personnel or access classified systems. It was to find a local politician, help build their career, and eventually have a friendly voice inside American local government. Patient, relationship driven, invisible on the surface. The Linda Sun case in New York follows the same logic from a different entry point. Sun was a top aide to two New York governors, and she stands accused of steering high-level state decisions in China's favor while collecting significant financial benefits in return. Different state, different method, identical underlying strategy. Get close to the people making decisions, earn their trust, and nudge outcomes before anyone notices the pattern. Here is a detail most coverage skips over entirely. The target in these operations is almost never the Pentagon or the White House. It's the layer underneath. City councils vote on zoning laws, award construction contracts, decide how school districts are drawn, and determine which businesses get permits. These same local offices often move up to state legislators and eventually Congress. And if you want lasting influence inside the American government, you don't start at the top where everyone is watching. You start in small cities where the rooms are full of people who have every reason to trust the person standing next to them. Your city council decides where roads get built, which development projects move forward, and how your neighborhood looks in 10 years. That isn't small. That's the ground floor of everything, and it's exactly where nobody thinks to look. Now, I want to play this next clip, guys, so you guys can see in regards to the situation we've been talking about overall. But that's the normalization theory that I broke down using Hassan Piker as an example. He does promote socialism and like Marxism in a way, being a Democratic left-leaning progressive. So he is that type of political commentary and very, very popular for it. So I just wanted to use that example for that. That's why I wanted to tie it together so you guys get where I'm coming from. Now check out this next clip, guys.
A former top aide in New York is accused of using her position to live a life of luxury and benefit Chinese interests. Federal prosecutors say Linda Sun acted as an undeclared spy for China, persuading two New York governors to take actions favorable to China in exchange for millions of dollars in side deals. Prosecutors allege she and her husband used the money to fund a lavish lifestyle, for example, paying cash for this nearly $4 million Long Island mansion.
There you have it, family. Different state, like I said, family. Same strategy, different strategy, not same strategy. Different state, different method, identical underlying strategy. That's why I say get close to the people, making decisions, earn their trust, and nudge outcomes before anyone notices the pattern. So now that you guys see it happen in Arcadia, California, which we're talking about, and then a similar thing happening in New York, it makes you wonder. And then to add the icing on the cake, which was very interesting, was that Arcadia actually awarded the mayor, Mayor Wang, Eileen Wang. So I wanted to read a little bit. The council member Eileen Wang receives award. They awarded her on April 13th. Arcadia, California, on Saturday, April 13th, Councilmember Eileen Wang was recognized by Representative Judy Chu at the annual Congressional Woman of the Year Award ceremony. This recognition served as a tribute to the remarkable woman-driven progress and change across the San Gabriel Valley. Quote unquote, it's tremendous honor to represent the Arcadia community in this capacity, said Councilmember Wang. I'm deeply passionate about our community. About our community and committed to making it the best it can be. Seeing women unite with shared purpose to prioritize our community was inspiring. Together, we'll work for a brighter, more inclusive future for all. Council member Wang, this was when she was a council member, as she worked her way up to the ranks, like I said, guys, to be the mayor, who eventually resigned within 24 hours as all of this stuff's caught up with her. Where there's smokes, there's fire, right? So Councilmember Wang has dedicated over 15 years to serving the community, demonstrating remarkable involvement in various service groups, exponential fundraising abilities, and advocacy for public safety. Most recently, she was elected as the city council member representing the 3rd District of Arcadia. In 2022, Eileen Wang ran for city council to advocate for her neighborhood and to have a bigger impact on Arcadia's future, right? So it makes you wonder, how long has this been going on? And if you're seeing it in New York and California, how many other spies, right? So, putting it all together, the part of this story that should bother everyone, regardless of where you stand politically, is the timeline of the legal fallout. Sun was already convicted and sitting in federal prison cell before Wang ever faced a single criminal charge. The federal government managed to build a full case, prosecuted, and lock her partner away while she continued to hold her position in the mayor's chair. This massive gap between his sentencing and her eventually guilty plea, guilty plea, wasn't just some minor administrative delay or a bit of paperwork falling through the cracks. It was a window that stayed open for a long time, and it points to a deep structural problem that goes way beyond one city or one Pacific court case. The FBI and the Department of Justice usually focus their counterintelligence work on federal targets like defense contractors, congressional staffers, and people with high-level security clearances. This approach makes sense on paper because that's where the most sensitive national data lives. But it creates a massive blind spot across the 90,000 local government units operating in the United States today. City halls don't have specialized counterintelligence officers on staff, and local elected officials never have to go through the same national security vetting as federal employees. There's no formal system for a county supervisor or a city council member to report suspicious foreign contacts to a federal agency, which means the community often has to notice something is wrong before anyone with a badge ever steps in. Local politics runs on trust, and because of that, these communities aren't naturally built to spot these kinds of operations. Politicians built their reputations by showing up to the neighborhoods like Arcadia, where she got awarded for when she was obviously a representative, right? A part of a council member before she became mayor. Handing out awards and voting on the small daily decisions that shape a town. We generally expect this closeness to make our leaders more accountable to us. And while that's usually true, the same familiarity creates the perfect environment for a patient, relationship-driven operation to exploit. When everyone in the room starts with the assumption that you are acting in good faith, the difficult questions stop being asked. And then you guys see the Congressional Woman of the Year award that Wang received from the Representative Judy Chu is a perfect example of how this works in the real world. No evidence suggests that Chu knew anything about what was happening behind the scenes, but that's actually the entire point of the strategy. Wang moved through legitimate political circles and collected praise from established figures, which meant nothing about her public profile ever set off alarm bells for the people working alongside her. Psychologists call this tendency confirmation bias, where once we decide a person is trustworthy, we interpret everything they do through that lens and ignore any evidence that might challenge our opinion. An operation built on manufactured community credibility relies entirely on that human tendency to kick in and keep people from looking too closely. And Sonia Martin, the journalist that you guys heard in the news clip and also in the first clip of this video, when she said, it was weird because he was there and it was like more of a woman gathering, that woman, the citizen, she ended up being the exception that proves the rule. Because she was a regular resident, not a federal agent, and she stayed involved long after the camera stopped rolling. She even attended Sun's sentencing at a time when local reporters had already moved on to the next big story. She's the one that took the picture, the resident. Her persistence didn't close the case on its own, but she kept a spotlight on a situation that easily could have faded into the background and been forgotten. That raises a question that we should all probably sit with for a moment. If she hadn't stayed on the case, who else was actually watching? Most people who cover stories like this tend to stop once they explain the problem, leaving you with a sense of frustration and nothing useful to do about it. We aren't going to do that here, so let's talk about what regular people can actually do to protect their own communities. The answer don't require you to have a law degree, a badge, or a special connection in Washington, D.C. to make a difference. The single most effective thing you can do for your town is to start showing up to city council meetings on a regular basis. Most Americans have never actually walked into one of these meetings. And that lack of public presence is exactly what makes it easier for people to operate quietly in those rooms. Every contract award, every zoning change, and every budget vote happens in a room that is legally required to stay open to the public. When more residents show up consistently, the entire dynamic of the room shifts, and quiet operations rarely survive when they are forced to deal with sustained public attention. Beyond just attending the meetings, you should take a look at who is actually putting money into local political campaigns. Campaign finance disclosures or public records. They should be campaign finance disclosures. They should be public records in every state, and anyone can look them up to see where the money is coming from. An observant community can spot a campaign manager with strange foreign ties or a major donor who has no actual connection to the neighborhood, long before a federal agency ever opens a file. The information is already sitting there waiting for someone to read it, but it only matters if someone actually takes the time to look. You also need to support the Sonia Martins, that resident who had the black hat on, and she was like, I didn't think nothing of it. I'm just sick of it, she said, right? She said he was there serving us, but it was a woman gathering. I don't even know why he was there, but she said that was his fiance. That her name is Sonia Martin. Sonia Martins in your own community, whenever you find them, the people who kept this specific story alive weren't famous journalists with national platforms, but were instead local residents who cared about their communities and didn't just put down the shades and put down the blinds and say, oh, I don't care. They could do what they want. I'll wash my hands of it. She didn't let her community down. She cared. She stayed involved. Local residents who decided that math wasn't added up and refused to walk away. That's what Sonia Martin was. She refused to walk away and said, this ain't adding up. Independent local journalists and citizen reporters do the kind of grinding work that large media outlets usually abandon the second a new headline breaks. That kind of persistence only survives if the community decides to value it and pays enough attention to keep the work going. The founders of this country understood this concept well enough to build two specific constitutional protections around it from the very beginning. Free speech and free press weren't added to the First Amendment just because they sounded like nice ideas, but because the people building the country had seen what happens when a government operates without an informed public. Town halls, local newspapers, and open meetings were all designed around a core idea that regular people paying close attention is the best defense against power operating in the dark. The situation in Arcadia eventually ended with a resignation and a guilty plea, which shows that the system can work even if it's slow and messy. And the only reason it worked at all is because people in that community refused to let the issue go quiet until they got the truth. You don't need a high-level security clearance to protect the place where you live. You just need to show up, ask the questions nobody else is asking, and stay in the room long enough to hear the real answers. This case proves the local politics is far from a small-time sideshow because the city council is where the decisions that actually shape your daily life happen. But I want to hear from you in the comments about whether you have ever attended a meeting or what exactly is holding you back from showing up. If you want more breakdowns like this that skip the noise to give you the plain facts, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Let the love supersede the hate. As always, we just having a conversation. I'll catch you in the next one, family. On that note, peace.